They've been dubbed America's cheapest family for their frugal, money-saving ways. Now, Steve and Annette Economides are sharing their secrets in their new book, The MoneySmart Family System. Steve and Annette, welcome to Windy City Live.
Hi. Good to be here.
It's so glad to be here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And I told everybody at the beginning of the show, my daughter told me to put this book down, but I refuse to because I feel like you have great money-saving tips. But we should really go back. You grew up here in the Chicagoland area. Yeah, you live in Arizona now, but you grew up here.
Right. Yeah, went to Hinsdale Central High School, competed in gymnastics, and got recruited to Arizona State University, and competed there for 4 years, two-time All-American, which was fun. And I keep in touch with people from. I just actually met my high school coach. He moved to Arizona a couple weeks ago. He's down in Tucson, but we just love Chicago and love gymnastics.
So have you always been frugal? Like, were you both frugal, and then when you met, you're like, oh, we have things in common? And
Not at all. Not at all.
Because you're from New York.
Absolutely. And I'm Italian, and he's Greek. And when we met, it was just kind of love at first sight, really. But money had nothing to do with it. And so...
I didn't have any.
But when we first got married, we decided, can we do this? Can we pull this off and live on one income?
She wanted to stay home,
right.
And I was working as a paste-up artist at a printing company, earning $6.50 an hour, about $13,000 a year. This is 1982.
But back in 1982, but still, my job was to beg
stretch our
pennies until they begged for mercy. That's what I say.
Stretch the pennies. But I mean, where did you get this stretch? I mean, where did you get that? Was that inherent?
We learned we went to a marriage prep class at our church, and one of the weeks was spent on budgeting.
Right.
Now, I'd never lived on a budget. I didn't know what that was.
I didn't know what that was.
The only real deal we had was my dad offered to match anything I put in the bank. It was a 401 dad. Okay. And then when I went,
but that was for college.
Well, then when I went to college, he said, you pay for half of it, I'll pay for half of it. That was a great deal, but I didn't learn about actually managing money, and we found that having a system for managing your own money is the most powerful tool for staying out of debt. That's how we paid off our first house in 9 years. We've never had a car payment.
Right.
We sent our kids to college without loans, all because we set that limit. We're not going to borrow. And if the money isn't there, we're going to find another way to do it.
I have a few questions.
He's a skeptic, I can hear it.
Why would you think that? Okay, all right, so you paid off your house in 9 years. And how much was the house?
We bought a repo. We didn't buy the biggest house in the neighborhood. It was $53,000. We turned around
back in 1985.
9 years later, we sold it for $80,000.
Okay, and you were doing this on an average income of $33,000. $33,000.
Right.
So what were the payments?
Payments were about
$500 a month. $500 a month.
But we started paying $1 extra one month. We go, oh, this is cool. You know, look at we cut off all that principal.
$1 extra?
Yeah, and then
it was more.
We started managing our money.
Because the salary started to increase. Yeah. But when a salary started to increase, we didn't go say, oh wow, we have a bigger salary now. Let's go take on all these payments. We said, no, we can survive the way we are. Let's start getting rid of every debt we can.
Did you have cars, a bicycle? What did you have?
we had one car at that point in time, and he was a sales rep and an account exec, and so the company gave him a car. Okay. So that's how we got the second car.
And Annette, you stayed at home and raised 5 kids.
I did.
So, I mean, literally, when I say stay at home and raise 5 kids, you homeschooled the 5 kids too, right?
I did. Yes, I did.
24/7.
But you know what? The nice thing about children is they come one at a time. So you have a chance to get used to things before the next one comes along, right?
Right.
You don't just get 5 all at once. That's not the normal thing.
We got 3 of them.
Now, the average cost to raise a kid is about $216,000, right?
Yes.
And you all raised 5 kids on an average of about $53,000, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Okay. Tell them how the USDA works.
Okay, the USDA looks at. They're in Washington, first off, which is the most expensive city in the country to live in besides Honolulu. So they're coming up with these averages of how many square feet a child needs in a car, or square inches in a car, square feet in a house, what kind of clothes they need to buy. They're coming up with these averages. And, you know, the government is really always right on the money when it comes to their predictions.
And the government doesn't use hand-me-downs.
They don't understand that principle. So what they do is they calculate this and say that's what it's going to cost you for the first 17 years. That doesn't include college.
Okay.
Okay. So we looked at it. I took their same calculations, and I know exactly what we spent on our kids.
Right.
And it came out to about $60,000, 77% less than what the government predicts.
$60,000 for all the kids combined?
No. Each child.
Per child. Okay.
And that includes health insurance, food, emergency room trips, all that stuff.
Right.
But the real key is we decided, rather than just spending that money on them, what we're going to do is we're going to find a way to invest it in them. So giving them a little bit of money of the money we would spend for them to spend and manage. So we pay them a little bit for doing chores.
But when you say a little bit in the book, like $1 for the 0 to 5 range, right?
Because $2 a week.
Yeah, but the older you were, you got a little bit more.
Oh, sure.
But if you're starting off, you're about $1 something, then $2, and then $2 something. Then
They divide it up into give, save, and spend. So they can spend some of it, but they can't spend all. Just like we can't spend our whole paycheck on whatever we want. And then when they turn about 11. They start buying their own clothes. We give them a little bit of a raise. They're responsible for buying their own clothes.
How much money? Give us specifics. Like, what are you talking?
At that point in time, they're earning about $7.50 a week.
Okay.
It's not much,
no.
and that doesn't entitle them to shop at the mall.
And wait, out of that $7.50 a week, they had to give, save, and spend.
And buy their clothes.
Out of that $7.50 a week.
But what that does is it as parents, it helps us to help them figure out how they're going to live on their budget. So we take them to thrift stores, consignment stores, rummage sales, and they can find really nice clothes. You guys, that industry has completely changed in 20 years.
Yeah.
No, 20 years ago, I mean, was it they picking up a shirt and going, Mommy, doesn't this smell funny?
Exactly.
I mean, isn't that really kind of the issue?
Exactly.
Well, you got to spend some of that money on detergent to wash it.
Everything comes home and gets washed. But now our kids dress better than their friends, and their friends are looking at them saying, whoa, you look great.
Because they saved all this money. Well, we're going to find out when you should start this new plan coming up right after the break. Right before the break, we're talking with, of course, Steve Annette Economides, and we were talking about at what age should you start this system with your children, and is it too late to start with a teenager?
Right. You can start this system at any age. Obviously, because we have 5 and our oldest started at 9, our youngest was not even born yet. And so she really started. You can start them as young as 3, just identifying coins. But you can start this at any age. It's going to be a little tougher, especially if they've been indulged, to finally say, you know, we're going to work on a budget here, and Mom and Dad are going to contribute, but we're going to set a limit on what we contribute.
Basically, the whole thing started one day. We were coaching families, helping them get out of debt. And they'd come over to our house, and our kids, actually John and Becky were the only kids at home at the time, and you know, they'd sit in another room and play. And John came to us one night after a family left, and he said, when are you going to do financial coaching with me? And we're going, holy cow, you know, we thought he'd catch what we were doing, but he never did. So I started looking for a system, and that's how we developed our MoneySmart Kids system that's on our website, MoneySmartFamily.com. And that's what the whole book is about. It's really about not just teaching your kids about money, because we're teaching values, we're teaching attitude, we're teaching diligence and work. We're teaching habits that will benefit them well into their adult years. And one of the things we noticed, and this is just kind of a scary statistic, but right now, 60% of parents are still supporting their adult children. And if we follow these principles, the kids will be empowered, and the parents will be
free. By what, 11 years old? The way, according to the book, it's like they can be doing their own thing.
Well, you're letting out the responsibility slowly over time, so that when they get to be 18 and 19 and 20, they come to you and they say, I want to pay for my college education.
Okay, I got to go back to the dollars here for a second. Sorry to be stuck on this, but okay, so if you have like a 17-year-old kid, let's say, what's an appropriate allowance for a 17-year-old boy and a 17-year-old girl? Is it the same? Is it different?
Well, first of all, we don't believe in allowances, because if allowance is giving a child money on a weekly basis for living and breathing, we say absolutely not.
Okay, chores, for example.
Okay, so what we say is, you know, you want to tie it to what they can earn. You want to have some kind of system where they're learning to work, because a work ethic is disappearing in our culture
today. So what's a good job for
But at that stage, they should have a part-time job. And statistics we cite in the book.
Like this, like cleaning a pool,
well, that's Joe cleaning our pool, but
no, I got a pool. That's a nice thing right there. That pool, by the way, costs 15 cents.
At 16, they should be working for somebody else.
And statistics show that kids who work a part-time job, not more than 15 hours a week, will do as well or better than their peers who don't work but just go to school.
So starting around the house, what's the youngest you can start the kids working around the house?
At 3, they can drag a laundry basket to the washing machine. They can learn to unload the silverware from the dishwasher.
Did I see there was a roof? There was like cleaning the roof. Did I see there was like a 5-year-old cleaning the roof?
This is Arizona. We have a flat roof, and sometimes the water puddles out. So the kids go up there. One of the chores was just to sweep the water off the roof. They love going up there.
You talked about something interesting in the break. You said people who tend to make higher wages are less inclined to follow this system?
Because they can basically pay for the things their kids want. So they can't say, honey, I can't afford it. But the truth is, if you take a child and you hook them up to a parent's earning capability, is there a guarantee that that child will ever earn that, have that earning potential? And I would say no. So what we want to do is we want to say, look, I could afford to give this to you, but it's far better for you to learn to do the heavy lifting yourself.
But what about that parent who grew up not having, and then when they have kids, they go, you know, I just want to give them what I didn't have and what I missed.
In our culture, somehow we've gotten confused love and things. And love doesn't mean giving things. You know, we say invest in your kids, your time, helping them figure out what they need to do to achieve and succeed in life. So there's a way to get the things, but there's also a way to teach your kids how to earn part of that, at least part of that.
If your kid comes to you and says, I want $200 blue jeans, you say, that's great. Listen, what I'll do is I would buy you a normal pair of blue jeans for about $20 or $30. So here's $20. It's up to you to figure out how to get the rest.
Okay.
Why not? Empower them to be successful, because eventually they're going to want a car. And are you going to buy the car for them?
You know, our kids have never wanted $150 sneakers.
They never wanted them?
They've never wanted them.
Well, they got on the roof when they were 3. I mean, let's face it.
No, they did not. But they look at the $150 sneakers and they go, do you know how long it would take me to earn that money? That's not worth it. I don't want to spend my money on that.
So I'm curious about, we're running out of time, but I'm so curious about your kids now. You said they're all adults. Like, are they all
They're
financially
ranging age between 18 and 29.
We've got 2 in college. Joe, who's going to graduate in next semester, came to us at the start of college and said, Dad, I don't want you to pay for any of my college education. And he is actually getting paid to go to college. He's applied for so many scholarships. Abby is 18. She's a freshman at Grand Canyon University, and I think it costs her $1,200 a year to go to school because of all the scholarships.
And it's a private school, so it charges $17 grand a year.
Wow.
And she's paying $1,200 a year.
Wow.
Well, we know you have a lot of questions, and we know one of your daughters is in the audience, but we also wanted to make sure that you all have everything that Steve and Annette are talking about. So we're going to give our audience a copy of the book, MoneySmart Family System, and we're going to take your questions after the break. That was Steve and Annette Economides, but Facebook is blowing up, and G is actually with the oldest daughter of the 5 children, Becky. Hi, G.
Hi, yeah, I'm sitting right next to Becky, and I've got to first ask you, now, did you resent your parents growing up? Did you feel like you didn't get to have all the other things all the other kids had?
I had better stuff because I had the money and they didn't. So when they were talking about how, oh, I can't afford that because my parents will give me money, I'm going, I have it, and I can buy it better and I can find it cheaper.
And you said everything that you have on today is from a
thrift store, with the exception of the boots, because they were expensive and I liked them. But I did find a pair of the same style boots, too small. I found them for $10 at a thrift store. I consigned them for $40, and so these boots then were half price, so I paid $80 for them.
Okay, but isn't this so time consuming?
No, there's so many resources out there. The boots I had to spend about 2 days finding, and I looked online.
I'm blown away. There's so many questions right now. So this is for Steve and Annette. Tricia says, this is impossible. I have a family of 8, and there is no way we could survive on $350 per month for food. I need to buy at least $850 in food alone every month, sometimes more, if we want better food such as steaks. And a lot of people also commenting that, you know, you guys are on the economics of the 80s. So does this stuff still apply today?
Right. How much do you spend on food a month now?
Actually, we spend $370 a month on food.
But that's just for you because you're empty nesters
No,
now.
No. We have 3 still at home, so we're feeding 5 adults every month. And actually, Trish, you're doing pretty good because we're spending about $74 per person per month, and Trish is doing about $106 per person per month.
Okay.
So there's room for improvement, but you're not doing terrible.
But she can do better. And some of the things, like she says, I want to buy steak. Well, steak prices have gone up because of the drought. Beef prices are going really high. So what we do is say, eat it once in a while, but substitute with cheaper cuts of meat like pork and poultry, and that'll save some money.
Right. We say plan a little bit more. Make sure you've got menus for your dinner so that dinner doesn't catch you by surprise. You're not...
Do you guys ever go out to eat? That's probably too
Very
expensive.
rarely. Very rarely.
How often would you say a year?
Well, we'll go out on dates once a month.
Okay.
But as far as the whole family, maybe 2 times a year, and then when we're on vacation.
So how does the date end? After you're done through the drive-through, or what happens there?
We pull out a coupon.
Yeah.
And we'll go for a walk. We'll go to a park. We did a thing where we went to different resorts around Christmas time.
We've got 2-for-1 theater tickets for our anniversary. We used a coupon, and we'll probably use 2
How
for
romantic.
1.
It's lovely. I guess the big question is like what's an average dinner then in your house for the 5 adults? How do you do that to keep it?
Oh gosh, we eat anything from beef stroganoff, stew, cashew chicken, lasagna.
When we were first married, Annette knew how to scramble eggs and boil water. She can now cook over 100 recipes, and this is all covered in our second book, Cut Your Grocery Bill in Half, which is a phenomenal tool because we aren't talking about being a coupon queen. As a matter of fact, extreme couponing to me is extremely stupid because most people don't have the time.
It's glorified hoarding.
Well,
really.
G's got another question. Go ahead, G.
This is from Linda. How do you handle child request demands, but everyone else has one, especially cell phones, internet, iPads, and how do you factor once-in-a-life events like prom?
Ooh, great question, and we have so many thoughts on that one. First of all, if your child is 16, they need to have a part-time job. We already talked about that earlier.
See, my parents didn't let me work when I was in high school. They said my focus was school. That was my job.
You know, that's a nice sentiment, but I'm going to disagree with you because most kids don't have, that's taken to school doesn't take up all their time. And that's when they start spending time texting. Let's talk about cell phones.
Yes.
If I'm an employer and I give my employee a tool, it's supposed to enhance their job. Does giving our kid a cell phone plan with full data, unlimited texting, unlimited talk, which they don't really talk anymore, but is that going to enhance their performance at school?
Do they become a better student? Absolutely not.
The amount of screen time they're spending playing games and texting is taken away from their activities at school. And I say, if you want to let the kids have a cell phone, let them at least participate in the cost of it.
And as far as prom, there's lots of solutions there. We just Googled prom dresses, free prom dresses, Illinois, and half a dozen places came up. So prom is not an excuse for parents to go into debt. Absolutely not.
Well, gas prices are pretty high here in Chicago. And what do you suggest for us dealing with that?
Well, what we do is we let our groceries help us buy gas. We have a Fuel Rewards Network card, and every $100 we spend gets us 10 cents off the gallon at the pump at Shell. So we get the Fuel Reward Networks card, and as a matter of fact, because of that, we want to give everybody in the audience a $50 gift card to Shell.